2, 1. Welcome, Bulldog fans, to SEC season. Yes, I know the 2017 football season for Mississippi State is 2 games old, 2 victories old, but it gets real now, Steve. LSU is in town, and they'll be here this evening, getting set for tomorrow's 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. A lot of activity. I hear a familiar voice somewhere back there, and I'm not talking about the tone loc on the PA somebody's playing.
Now, the Feinbaum Show is here, SEC Nation's here, and listen, this is like, I heard DJ Looney speak last night at the Starkville Touchdown Club, and he says, we've made this a big game. It's one of those things, a lot of people expect LSU to be pretty good this year, ranked number 12 in the country. Mississippi State's a bit of an upstart. People maybe aren't really believers in the Bulldogs because of how last season played out. But this is a benchmark game, David. This is an opportunity for State to really show that they're for real this year and have an opportunity to prove that they're going to contend for a pretty solid ball game.
Now, of course, we know the last 2 games come down to last series. Mississippi State lost by 2 on a field goal, a forced field goal try that had little chance of going good. Lost by 2 points 2 years ago on this field. And then last year, 3 points at Baton Rouge, where LSU, let's be honest, in both cases, Les Miles teams took an early lead, felt like they had control, and just tried to play out the clock. This is not quite the same LSU team. They're a little bit different under Coach Ed Orgeron. He's brought in new coordinators, a little new attitude, but it's still LSU. They're going to do the same things they always do.
Yeah, David, they want to get a lead and then shorten the game on you. And they can have all the motions, all the shifts, whatever they want, all the coordinators. Ed Orgeron is a blue-collar coach who wants to run the football and play really good, solid defense and get out of there with a W. It's not a beauty contest with Orgeron. He wants to line up and have the more physical team on the field and do his best to exert their will. But, David, you're right. LSU, that's kind of been the formula. State has kind of struggled in the early part of ball games and then had to kind of fight from behind, as we saw in 2015. Probably a game State should have won.
Right.
Last year was, it was a lot closer than the game really indicated. I really think the score was kind of. You look back at it now and people forget how crazy that comeback was in the final minutes. And I don't expect that to happen this year. I think in order for State to win this ball game, they've got to get out of the gate quickly and have an opportunity to get some points on the board early in the ball game.
Of course, all the emphasis and pressure is on LSU, you would think, at this point, because they are ranked. But there's still a lot of uncertainties in Baton Rouge. We understand from our good friend Ross Dellinger there's some questions about health in the Tiger team, like in the offensive. Even the defensive line is not sure how many snaps Arden Key will be able to get. And they're starting, I think you said, a couple of freshmen now at the points of contact. And that's big for LSU. Yes, they're going to be talented, but LSU has always thrived on having juniors, seniors, or third-year sophomores playing in those line, offense, defense positions. So you catch them a little bit younger this year, a little bit less experienced, and some tweaks in the system. But now you've got a Bulldog defensive line, which, let's just say, what we saw at Louisiana Tech last week was epic. I've already come out and said that I've been doing this a long time, as everybody knows. Jeffrey Simmons might be the best young defensive tackle Mississippi State's ever had, and I'm including Glenn Collins and Fletcher Cox in that count. Guys like him, and then what Coach Brian Baker has done under Todd Grantham's direction, this defensive line, they have the capacity to take the best shots LSU has and stop them.
And, David, it's probably the first time in many years Bulldogs were able to say that. The 2014 front, 2014 front was good, but we didn't know how good that Saturday night when we went to Baton Rouge, Preston Smith, Caleb Ewells, P.J. Jones, that group, all very good players. I believe this group might even be a little more explosive than that group. Not to mention, as you mentioned, LSU's offensive line is in transition, and one of those freshmen is going to have to line up across from Jeffrey Simmons, and I believe that's a matchup that every Bulldog fan expects to win. But you're right, David. State's catching them at a good time, getting them at home, a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence in this defense after what we saw the last couple of weeks. And again, State gets the big start against Charleston Southern, fights from behind last week. I think that's going to play into things this week because I think Mississippi State plays really good defense with a lead.
Certainly, Steve, we expect State to go back to more like the defensive front they showed against Charleston Southern. Even though that was an option offense, they still showed basically a 3-4 set with the 2 safeties. Put it this way, I don't expect to see a dime package tomorrow against LSU when they're in run play situations. But that plays to the strengths of guys like Des Harris and Leo Lewis on the inside, and now Gary Green, who has found his home in an outside linebacker position. And that does not even take into account guys like Montez Sweat and Marquise Spencer and other guys. Just Mississippi State has more defensive tools to throw at LSU than they've had in a long time. And I hear some of your fan club hollering for you right now. In fact, I think you've got one waiting here to sign a book for you.
Yeah, David, it's the price of fame, but I'm very, very happy that people have enjoyed the work. And it's nice to be able to go places and people come up and show their appreciation. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of that this weekend. Matter of fact, I'll be at the Lodge from 10 to 3 on game day, signing books for Bulldog fans coming to town that perhaps haven't been able to buy them in their local bookstores. And so it's all expanding. Very happy about that. But 16 years in Baton Rouge has kind of made me want the Bulldogs to beat LSU every year. I want my friends to be happy when we can't be happy, but at the same time, we haven't had our due in this series, and so it's a big ball game, David. And I think you mentioned Arden Key not being able to be 100%. He'll be probably a third down pass rushing specialist, and they'll get what they can get out of him. It's not 100%, but he's still one of the nation's elite pass rushers. So Martinez Rankin's got to be a guy that really plays well and could probably elevate his own draft stock with a good ball game.
Well, and you certainly expect LSU to target a guy on the other end like Stuart Reese, redshirt freshman, first SEC game. But talk to him this week. He knows that he's still a young guy. He knows he has a lot to learn. But it's like he said, he faces Montez Sweat every day in practice. He faces Chauncey Rivers, who unfortunately is not eligible this season, every day in practice. So he should be ready for that. Turning quickly to the offensive side again there against the LSU defense. This is a game where you just want to get out there and get that ground game going. We have no concerns that State will attempt that. But you've got to have the big play passing. And maybe there's some concern there, maybe about some injury situations, about some health, and just the fact that the State's receivers have struggled a little bit to get some of the separation. You would hope so. But the pressure is really on them. I would also expect a lot of use of the tight ends to this coming game.
David, I would too. And, LSU has kind of been soft against the run this year. And, State, it's a team that wants to run the football to kind of set up the pass. And you're right, Donald Gray and Dedrick Thomas and those guys are going to be a factor in this ball game. But I believe step one is going out and establish the running game and kind of get LSU in some manageable third downs. You've got to get out of those third and longs, which keeps Arden Key off the field and kind of gives you an opportunity to be a little more multiple with your offensive play calling. So I'm expecting a lot of that to happen, David. I think that State will come out and really try to establish the run early. And I believe if State can get an early score, get some confidence against that LSU defense, and get these cowbell crazies going, it could be a long night for LSU.
Steve, we'll talk tomorrow more about place kicking and other things because we'll have a chance before we shoot our pregame video to actually watch Tucker Day, Jace Crispin, and Lawless and others doing their kicks, maybe get an idea of how they feel. We know they're more talented and they've shown they have some issues, but State special teams now, too. They've shown they can block a kick. They've shown they can do things with a kick. Still waiting to see what the return game's capable of, but we'll address that tomorrow a little bit more in our pregame. We'll also try to update what we can find out about lineups and injuries going into the game because it will come after dog walk. By the way, 4 o'clock, be here at the junction with all the crazies from both teams to celebrate the arrival of SEC season on campus. And I still find it fascinating that the public address behind us has gone from Tone Loc to Hank Williams Jr.'s and now to Alabama. So I guess they're kind of all over the map there for Mr. Feinbaum's pleasure, unless that's his CD they're playing.
Well, we SEC folks are a diverse group, and I'm glad to hear the Feinbaum Show try to appeal to the sensibilities of all college football fans, which is kind of one of those things that's been in the news as of lately that, sometimes one fan base is kind of favored over another. So it's good to see here on this campus that that's not the case.
And all our sources indicate, again, our sources are good as opposed to maybe in other precincts around here, that a sellout crowd expected tomorrow, great atmosphere, weather looks good again. There have been some late weekend possibilities of rain, but now everything is good for Saturday. Conditions will not be too hot. So just get out here, have a big old time. It's SEC season, and as I always remind everyone here who hasn't made the decision whether to come or not, you only get now 6 of these opportunities in a season to watch your team on their home field. Think about it. That's just a half dozen more chances to be here at Scott Field with all your fellow Bulldogs with the cowbells ringing, or when it's time to be responsible, just cheering. But it'll be a full house tomorrow. It's LSU, a rival we love to play. We'd love to beat again. I've only seen 2 victories since 1991. But, hey, I'm old enough to remember when State owned the LSU series. I know some of you youngsters will have a lot of trouble believing that. But tomorrow's a great chance to break that string and for Mississippi State to start its SEC season on a high point as they go into this brutal stretch of LSU, then at Georgia, then at Auburn. So from the junction on the campus of Mississippi State, for Steve Robertson, for Gene Swindoll, for Mike Nemeth of Gene's Page, dogsbite.com, this is David Murray.